Hey guys, it's Coop from GarageGymReviews, and today I'm reviewing quite possibly, well, this is actually the cheapest Smith machine I could find. Now, I've noticed many of you have talked about, especially in the home gym community, about having a Smith machine in your gym. It's kind of funny. I feel like 10 years ago, if you mentioned a Smith machine and the idea of a garage gym, you would have just gotten flamed. Now it's more acceptable because we are using more and more machines. Fitness is cyclical, and now we went from you being the machine to now you use machines. I like machines personally. And I think a Smith machine can have a lot of benefits, but this one specifically is from RitFit and is designed to be a budget-oriented Smith machine, which means this is literally the cheapest Smith machine I could find, but also is made to be multi-functioning in the fact that it has a lat pull-down low row on the back. When I saw this one, I was like, let's see what it's like. There's nothing that really compares to this, but I've been pretty surprised. Let's get into the review. Okay, this is from RitFit. RitFit sent it so I could do a review. This will be an honest review like everything else. I'm going to talk about the things that suck because there are things that suck on it. I'll also talk about the things that are good. If you'd like to purchase it, check out the link below the like button. The company will pay us a small commission but won't increase the cost that you pay. Okay, now before I get into like the actual like components of this, I want to just give a couple benefits for Smith machines. Some of you guys, you're not into them at all. Others of you are watching this and you're like, I considered a Smith machine or I like Smith machines. Let me just say this. When I hear people like Brian Shaw or Chris Bumstead talk about Smith machines, guys who are either bodybuilders or doing a lot of powerlifting or strongman, they talk about Smith machines in a positive way and have them in their gym. In fact, I'm pretty sure Chris Bumstead did like an interview and said if he could have like 10 different machines, this would be like one of the machines he'd include. This is one of his essentials. So if it's good enough for them, probably good enough for you mortals. A Smith machine does have a few benefits beyond just the obvious. One is safety, especially for home gym. Being able to train with this is more safe than a barbell. Two, it can have some benefits in the stability it provides. Also, that provides some negatives. It just depends what you're looking to train for. The other one is isolation of movements. This is what I'd say. If you want a Smith machine in your gym and it's going to help you move more, get one. Who cares what people on the internet say? Like, doesn't matter. If you want one, it will help you train more. You liked it in your commercial gym, then get one. But is this the one? Well, let's talk about it. First off, this is designed really to be used as a Smith machine, but the biggest benefit of this and the reason I'm reviewing it is not because it's a Smith machine, but because it's dang cheap. In fact, this is the cheapest Smith machine I could find. Not just Smith machine that also includes a lat pull down and low row, just the cheapest Smith machine. This thing is right around 400 bucks. 400 bucks for a Smith machine, and you're like, that thing's really gonna suck. And it does in some ways, but it's got some big positives. Like seriously, this thing has some positives that I think meet the value and it's worth. For those of you that are looking for a Smith machine, I would definitely look at this one. Okay, here's why. First off, this can be used like an actual Smith machine. Now, there's a couple things that are like deceptive marketing on their website, and I've seen this with other RitFit stuff. I think this is a Chinese company. I haven't had like a direct conversation over the phone with anybody from the company, so I don't know where they're based, but this stuff is all imported. Their website looks like it was generated by ChatGPT. There's just a lot of things about it. They're like, but looking specifically at the equipment, there's some things that they market about this that are kind of true, kind of not. Here's one. This has 1,000-pound capacity, which like, who rates that exactly 1,000 pounds? I don't know, but everything seems to have 1,000-pound capacity, this included. However, when you look into the marketing further and you start looking at the manuals, it doesn't have 1,000-pound capacity. The bar itself has a 500-pound capacity, but the uprights and the stoppers have 1,000-pound capacity. So I don't know why they say it has 1,000-pound capacity because what you're actually using doesn't. But 500 pounds on a Smith machine is good enough for a majority of people. Like you're gonna be fine with 500 pounds, and this is something that can go up and down in a stable arc. Like that's what you're looking for in a Smith machine, something to move up and down as smoothly as possible, really to have as light of start weight as possible, and this does that. This is able to go up and down with weight on it without being like too unstable. There's some components there that I'll talk about, but this gets the job done. Now it gets it in like a less than ideal way, but that's what you expect for 400 bucks for this amount of steel. And here's why. So number one is they are using guide rods, which are great, and that's what you see on most commercial Smith machines. But instead of using bearings inside of the guide rod assembly, they're actually using plastic bushings. I took one off. It's just a plastic bushing, and then they oil the rod. Like, it's not ideal. It's not gonna be as smooth as what you use at the gym, but it's gonna get the job done, especially in a single person home gym, and if you're not maxing out that 500-pound capacity. The other thing is the bar itself. There's a trade-off here. You want a Smith machine to be as light of a start weight as possible. It's the reason you go to a commercial gym and they offset it with cables that has weight on the other side. You can't usually see it. It's like within the uprights, but it's the reason the bar is so light. The reason they're able to make this light is not because they're offsetting the weight, but because they're not using an actual steel barbell. They're using a hollow tube. So that bar you see in the middle, it's a hollow tube, and that's why it has a 500-pound capacity instead of a 1,000-pound capacity. If they would have used an actual bar, it would have been a 1,000-pound capacity, which may be nice for people that are heavy lifters, but then the other side of that, it would have been a lot heavier. This actually weighs, unweighted, only 14 pounds, which is pretty good for a Smith machine that is not offset on the other side. It also includes the carriage. So, trade-off there. I'll also say the knurling on this blows. There's like nothing there, okay? It is so passive. Honestly, I almost wish they just didn't even include it because it's just so bad, but it's there. You're gonna have to really chalk up, wear gloves, I don't know, wear lifting straps, but the knurling is really bad. But then the other thing is the sleeves are plastic. So the reason they're able to make this so light is because they're using really light materials, but that's also why it has a lower weight capacity, which is an okay trade-off. It leads to a cheaper price, which I think is okay for this market. That said, when you're doing movements on the Smith machine with up to 500 pounds, it feels like a lot of other Smith machines if you weigh it down. And that's one of the things I'd suggest. I actually noticed when we first put this together, it was super wobbly. One of the reasons it was super wobbly is Sam hadn't put the rubber feet on yet. After you put the rubber feet on, make sure you put the rubber feet on, it gets much more stable. It's not perfectly stable, but I will say the more you weigh it down, and if you decide to drill this into the floor, which I don't think would be a bad thing, this thing gets much more stable. So I would just recommend if you're gonna use the Smith machine portion, make sure you at least weigh it down with a lot of weight. You are not gonna enjoy using it without it, and it could also tip over on you and be dangerous. Now for the dimensions of the rack, it is a little bit short, so you're not gonna be doing standing overhead press on the Smith machine portion, which in reality, you can't really do on any commercial gym anyways. You pretty much just always have to be seated. So not a huge deal, but it's made for home gyms, so it's gonna fit in a short ceiling. Also, the depth isn't crazy long. I think it's a good size. It allows you to get under the bar without issues of running into the lat pull down, but also allows you to have that lat pull down with plate loaded on the back. So it's not gonna take up too much space, but it is made to be more compact, as is the width of the machine. This isn't a full standard 7-foot barbell that you normally use. So if you have shoulder problems and you're used to gripping really wide, this may feel a little bit uncomfortable when you're doing squats. Just be aware. Then the height adjustments for the stoppers. The stoppers are rated for 1,000 pounds. They attach into the uprights. There's no like UHMW plastic or anything like that. So expect some issues with the powder coating and corrosion over time. But for 400 bucks, again, how much can you ask for? One thing I will call out though, is they're using, they call it 2mm walled steel. It's 14 gauge steel. I don't know why they make this so complicated. Probably because they're trying to hide the fact that it's 14 gauge. But most racks in this price point are 14 gauge. Just understand, like, it's not the thickest steel. For comparison, a majority of racks, like the one behind me over here, they're 11 gauge, the smaller the gauge, the thicker the steel. 11 gauge would be nicer, but again, 400 bucks. And I think 14 gauge for this is gonna be fine. It's just gonna have a little bit less stability and a little bit less weight capacity, but I think you can use it safely without worry. Then we have the lat pull down and low row on the back. This is the same lat pull down and low row that's on their RitFit rack, which is one that we've reviewed in the past. It's using guide rods, it's using plastic bushings, very similar system as what they're using on the Smith machine. It's just plate loaded and then has cables wrapping around. Again, with the weight capacity, there's some deception there because on the website it says it holds like 300 pounds or something. And then you look closer and it actually, the pulleys hold 300 pounds. The lat pull down bar that comes with it holds 300 pounds, but the stack on the back holds 165 pounds. So there. So I would say this, it's gonna be able to hold what a majority of you are gonna be able to lift, but I would say be a little bit careful if you're going much over 165 because the cables are probably not rated for a crazy amount. I will say though, if you use this a lot, it may be worth upgrading over time to like aluminum pulleys. RitFit doesn't sell them, but if you're looking for like a hack to make a machine better and longer lasting, that's something that you could easily upgrade for not a lot of money, improve the cables, and you could have a machine that works really well. So one question you may have is like, if I'm starting a gym coming from a commercial gym, could I just get this or should I get a power rack first? I would say this. I prefer a power rack. I prefer like using a just traditional barbell. You can go heavier. I like training without stability. I just think there's a lot of benefits there. But if you only use a Smith machine at the gym, like let's say you go to Planet Fitness, they don't even have barbells, they use Smith machines, and you want that same experience at home, this is a way that you could cheaply do it and could do it safely. So it may be an option there. But the person I really think this works for is say somebody that really likes doing bodybuilding, isolation type movements, has a power rack already, but wants something, they have space for it, something that's more standalone for a Smith machine and the lat pull down low row. I think this is awesome. If you have the space for it, I would love a power rack and then this versus one that's all in one, because you can superset, you have more area you can move around, you can have it set up, you don't have to move everything off every time you're using it. The all-in-one units are really cool and because they don't take up a lot of space and you can quickly change them, but you do have to change them. This is just something that's a little bit more convenient, a little bit easier if you have both the space and money. And I think space will be the bigger issue because the money isn't that much. And if you're looking for a Smith machine, you basically got to spend more than double of this to get something like that's okay, or you go with this. There's just such a gap, which I expect companies to kind of fill over time, but for right now, there's just not really anything in between those price points. All of this said, do I recommend this thing at 400 bucks? Dude, I do. I think this is a sleeper pick. Like, I'm actually really surprised. I said a lot of things that aren't good about this, but man, a low price covers so many sins. 400 bucks for this thing includes a standalone plate-loaded lat pull-down low row that actually works. It's not like it's like the greatest thing ever. If you want a really nice heavy stack or a better option, you can go with another option. But if you're looking for something separate from a squat rack that's not all in one, that also includes a Smith machine, this will get the job done. Again, I'm not gonna say this is like the greatest thing ever because it's not, but for 400 bucks, I think you're getting a lot of value here, surprisingly. And right now, like truthfully, there's nothing else that compares. When I went on Amazon, the closest thing I found price-wise was around 900 bucks. Looked like a pretty similar quality, but didn't include a lat pull-down low row on it. Then if you go even like, if you're looking for a standalone Smith machine, if you go beyond that, you're like 1,200 bucks, 1,300 bucks. PowerTech, a home gym company, has one for 1,300 bucks that uses rollers instead of guide rod. I mean, I'm just like, if you're looking for a Smith machine and you're on an ultra budget, this is the one. Like, that's just the reality. So I don't think this is the greatest thing of all time, but for 400 bucks, like, it's just a lot you can do with this. Just make sure you understand its capacity and what you're gonna get. Make sure you loosen up the bolts before you assemble it and get it in its spot. And after that, once you weigh it down, like, I think you get some real training in with this. Okay, let me know what you think of it. Is there any other budget machines or anything like that you'd like to see us review? Or any other Smith machines? One thing I will say, I'm expecting a lot of companies to come out with Smith machine attachments for the racks in the future. Like, I just see it. We see it from Bulletproof with their VTS, which we plan to review. If you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments, but there's other companies coming out with them as well. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see those and more machine-based reviews. Okay, this has been Coop from GarageGymReviews. I'll see you later.